Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Texture Pop Podcast. I'm professionalism at its finest. I am your fill-in host for this evening, Brandon Lee Carey. Joining me, as always, is fedora-wearing Samuel Callahan.
That's a secret. People are going to find out that later. I don't actually wear fedora, but someone we know does. Total asshole.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
You're going to meet our new friends soon enough.
Anyway, we've had some interesting things happen this week. Well, one interesting announcement.
I'll say before that, we should probably state we're the only two ones here for the moment. Chris recently moved and got a new job in a new place, so he's not going to be here this week, possibly next. Garrett, we don't know if he's coming in, so it's very possible it'll be just me and Brandon, talking about stuff for this week.
We'll see.
Just know that going in, Anyway.
It's not even from me and Chris doing this by ourselves. You know what to expect by now.
No, except it's me, and I'm so different, charismatic.
We do a Let's Play series together.
Yeah, people know what's up between us. They know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should check out the Let's Play series. It's pretty good, I heard.
Yeah, definitely. Interactive Friction. Go watch it. Anyway. News time, children.
News.
Ubisoft has announced recently that Assassin's Creed Victory, the Victorian London Assassin's Creed game that was coming out this year, has been changed to be named Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Yeah, I wonder when I first heard about the whole Victory title if that was just supposed to be a tie into Unity, and they have like Unity and Victory and like Prosperity and things like that. I don't know. And they just said, no, maybe let's break apart from the whole Unity thing.
Well, the reason they're called Syndicate is that in the story, your playable characters are using a bunch of criminal organizations, aka syndicates, to fight against the Templars.
Brandon, it's funny that you mentioned playable characters, plural. Are there more than one playable characters in the new Assassin's Creed game?
I'm glad you asked, Samuel Callahan. Co-host of Interactive Friction.
Lover of multiple playable characters.
In fact, the twist with this new title is that there will be two playable characters in the single player. This is not a multiplayer game. There are just literally two protagonist characters which the player both plays as. There is a protagonist, I think his name is Jacob. It starts with a J.
I believe it's Jacob.
Yeah.
And the other one is Evie?
His sister. Right. Yeah, it's his sister. And they are both playable. It'll be a multiple perspective story, which I have always been a huge fan of personally. I love that trope where different characters have different viewpoints and they notice different things.
So is this a deal where you're playing as both without the stories interweaving? It's not like a swap characters and get the same story?
According to Ubisoft, like when you're doing the open world stuff, you can play as either one of your choice. But in the story, it'll be 75% the dude and 25% the chick.
Well, getting somewhere at least.
Hey, I mean, I heard women are hard to animate, so give them some break. Give them a break, dude.
They've been working on the animation technology this whole past year, developing new rigs for the females.
And did you see the trailer for the game yet?
I watched like the gameplay demo, if that's what you mean.
Because I just kind of laughed in the trailer when the guy character took off his top hat just to put his hood up.
Yeah, I love the animation where he just tucks away his top hat and he's like, I'm gonna be sneaky now. Like, it's kind of cool, but, the whole crouch thing in Unity was certainly a weird aspect of the game, and this one just doubles it. Because the problem I had when I saw it is that it makes the world that much more less immersive when you're walking around crouched and everybody just like, that's weird looking. And it's like, it's just super weird looking. Like Assassin's Creed 1, it made sense, and in 2, and then they got to a point where they just pulled the hood up in combat.
It didn't even really make sense in 2, honestly. Not even in 2.
I guess, but like at some point they came up with the idea of pulling up the hood when combat starts, so otherwise you look like more like a normal person. But in this one, because you can crouch anywhere, it just looks super dumb when you're crouched running around the city.
Yeah.
It's weird, but
I think you just walk around in your top hat and everything's fine.
Yeah. I think it is also pretty interesting that they have the grappling hook, because to me that basically just said we've had so many of these games that the climbing has become secondary to people's enjoyment.
So let's
just skip
let
it.
people scale the walls and zip line, which honestly I'm okay with. That's cool for me.
Yeah, like I still think the climbing has always been pretty cool, but I like the idea of like, look, this is not the primary focus of the game anymore.
What
Let's just get to the good stuff.
To see the Assassin's Creed games focus on is actually assassinating people.
Yeah, which, for all the problems that Unity had, we have talked before about how we think Unity was probably one of the best in doing that.
Yeah, like, it was a great start, but I think they could go farther with that
it's like
concept.
If they just had another game the next year.
Like, if we had some, accident kills or something like that, I'd be down for, being able to fake a death and make it look like an accident or something. Or just some other ways you could use the environment, because now they've added environment kills to the game.
Yes.
Like there's several construction sites where you can use your throwing knives to knock a bunch of barrels down and kill an enemy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Unity had accident kills, but not really. Like the one that I remember was when you can poison someone's drink, but all it needs to do is block where you can assassinate them.
That's like the one time though.
Yeah, and even then, it doesn't kill them. You still have to go assassinate them. It just moves them to where you can do it in secret. Like they need full on, like you don't even touch the guy kind of kills.
Yeah, basically, I want them to be Hitman.
Yeah, just be Hitman, but with a good style to it, like Assassin's Creed
Parkour Hitman. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, just rename the whole series Parkour Hitman. TM.
The Parkour Hitman rises again.
Right. It's actually Agent 47 just doing sick backflips over buildings. I'd be into that.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to this game because I am a sucker for the Assassin's Creed series at this point, and I know it. I'm not gonna have any bones about it.
Yeah, I remember when Unity came out, I was like, nope, not gonna buy it. All the technical problems, not gonna touch. 2 weeks later, I was like, I just have to. I love these games, and I hate it.
Yeah.
Because they're not as good as I want them to be, but when they're good, they're so good.
I know, and and the thing with Assassin's Creed games, that there's always fun things to talk about with an Assassin's Creed game.
They're super interesting discussion pieces.
That's why I will always buy them on launch day, even though my instincts tell me I shouldn't.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll be glad to buy Syndicate when you buy it. We can both talk about it. But we can't do so on the PS3 and the 360 anymore.
Yeah, because the other big news piece is that Ubisoft has decided that they will no longer support the PS3 and the 360 when developing games from here on out.
Which, kind of a long time coming.
Yeah, that's more of an it's about time than anything else.
Yeah, I remember when Advanced Warfare came out, I didn't learn until months later that actually came out on old consoles. Because I was like, who still... I know this generation has definitely been harder to grasp for a lot of people, but just what has it been, almost 3 years now?
Because, I mean, the alternative for Ubisoft is to have, Unity and Rogue again, or something similar where you have a PS3 and a PS4 game that's different.
Or just a Syndicate version being well, it's half the size of the game world and a lot of retooling, and at some point it's more effort than it's worth.
Yeah,
so they were probably just waiting for a certain adoption amount as far as the new consoles, and then going look, it's not worth the labor anymore to make an old version.
This is probably best for everyone, honestly.
Yeah, it should mean better quality games.
We'll see.
If you do have one of the old consoles, I do apologize, but at some point, things have to move forward. There is a great backlog of stuff to play.
Sacrifices must be made.
Yes. Because I've actually heard people ask me, some of my coworkers, I don't have much money, which console should I get? I'm like, dude, get a PS3 or 360. There's hundreds of games to play on there if you don't care about playing the new stuff.
I've always said for the longest time, the PS2 is the best console of all time. Yeah.
If you want to get if you want to spend $300, get a PS2 and 50 PS2 games, and they're all the best games around.
It's a robust library, but yeah, that is it for our gaming news this week. You just kind of wanted to talk a bit about Assassin's Creed Syndicate now that it's been announced.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably a little dry because E3 is getting up there, so
yeah, it's almost time.
That'll be a big news week for us.
Oh God,
we might have to have just the E3.
We're going to have
to.
We either have to do a dedicated E3 podcast, or we're just going to have a very big filter.
Yeah, something like that. We'll figure it out when we get there.
So, I think as the host, it's be more prudent to let you go first, Sam. How was your week?
It's an okay week. I'm getting a new work schedule, so I'm actually looks like I'll be getting 3 days off coming up, which will be kind of nice for a week.
You still work at the pizza place?
Yeah, unfortunately, but working through that, trying to get back into school near Atlanta.
I'm looking for jobs myself.
Yeah, I know it is, man. It's like the thing about having a job is I don't want to quit because I have a job, and it's kind of nice to have a job.
There are benefits to being unemployed, but at the end of the day, money is still a thing that people need.
Yeah, it's one of those things you just don't want to quit because you're like, it's good to be employed.
It's cash.
Yeah, it's nice to have constant flow of money.
It's not great to be employed, but it's great to have money from being employed.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like every day I go to work, I'm like, man, this is the worst. But then you get paid, and you're like, oh, look at all these video games I can buy.
At least until you find a good job that you like.
Yeah, and then everything's great from there, but still working on that part. I guess as far as games, I'm trying to really quick skim through stuff. I know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to double check my Vita real quick to make sure it's something I'm not entirely
Improvisation, guys. This is unscripted.
Yep, I'm just stalling. Yeah, I think I'm just going to talk about one thing to keep this short. So I've been playing Project Cars for the past few weeks.
That is...
It's a racing simulation game.
For what platform?
The personal computer, and I believe it is now out on the PS4 and Xbox One. It was a slightly delayed release date.
I see.
So it is definitely the most hardcore sim I've played as far as racing. I have played Forza, I have played Gran Turismo, and I have played Dirt. This one blows them out of the water.
So in what way is it much more simulation based than the others?
It's terrifying. When I first booted up the game, I just got into a regular car. It was like better put it this way. When I start up the game, when you start a new career, it's like, hey, race these 125cc go-karts. And I'm like, well, that sounds kind of boring, but I guess I'll do it because it'll be cool just to slide out the progression. And even then, it was still like, okay, you really got to learn these go-karts, man. You really got to, get into the design of the go-karts and what is their turning radius and all that. And then, sorry, I was hearing echo. But then at one point when I got to the end of the 125cc season, there was a thing where it's like, oh hey, you can race a Ford. Oh god, what was it? It was a basic Ford car, like a standard commercial Ford vehicle. Because I was gonna say Mustang, but it was something. It was very Ford Focus, I think it was, like the small Ford cars. And it put me in a race that was it was at night in the rain, and I just flew all over the track, and it was just terrifying to be in a real car all of a sudden. So it's real in the sense that you really have to get into these cars, and they actually set up the races such that you have a practice round where you can just race around the track, and then you have a qualifying round that's like 10 minutes, you can do as many laps as you want, and then you just gotta get the fastest time. And then you have the actual race. And if you skip any of those, they'll start you in last place. So it's beneficial to do the 10-minute thing, where you drive around in circles for 10 minutes to get a better score and better place.
Wow.
But it's really in-depth. There are sub-menus for, you can adjust the tire pressure of each individual tire. You can adjust, what your pit crew does when you go inside the pit stop and how much time it'll take. It's just completely insane. And
yeah, I'll stick with Mario Kart. I'll stick with Mario Kart.
It's kind of only for just the crazy people like me, but I'm getting really into it in that sense. Just man, this is nuts.
Do you know how that doesn't surprise me?
Why is that?
Because you were someone who loves the simulation games.
Well, that's very true. I like my Arma. I like my racing games. I like flight sims as well. I like stuff.
Do you have those $2,000 flight sim kits?
No, I thought about it, and the funny thing is that
thought about it.
I really thought about it. So funny thing is that because I don't have my second monitor, I've been looking for something to put on while I play games, and I found a Best of Giant Bobcast playlist, and one of them was because I was sitting there playing Project Cars, and I was like, I could get a racing wheel. I could buy a GT27 for $250. And the episode that came up was everybody telling Vinny, don't buy a racing wheel. And I was like, I feel like this thing is just calling to me, because they're sitting there, and it's like, why would you want a racing wheel? And it's like, I just want to drive the cars. It's like, where are you going to put the racing wheel? Where are you going to hook it on your desk? What games are you going to play with it? And it's like, oh, it's a whole nightmare. It sounds so cool in theory, but it's a total nightmare, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure my desk is not set up for a racing wheel.
Way back when Gran Turismo 1 on the PS1 was a thing that people cared about. My friend brought to my house the copy of the game and two of the racing wheel kits.
He owned 2 of them?
Yeah, he had 2 of them.
Wow, that's hardcore.
And we each had one, and it was fun, but then putting them back and transporting them back to his house was it was hard to find a place to put them back to.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the problem. It's like a flight stick seems a little bit better because, there's a lot of cool flight stuff out there, and it's, it generally just works if you put it on your desk. The racing wheel, like my understanding is, I think you have to like hook it under your desk, like it has to like kind of hook on the end of it.
And, when you're couch gaming, that's fine. When you're doing when you're couch gaming like we were at the time, it's fine. But I imagine with the computer desk, it's a different story.
Yeah, and like I definitely wanted the one that has the clutch and all that. And then I was talking to my coworker about it, and he was like, "Well, if you get the clutch, like if you haven't driven a manual, you wouldn't know about this, but there's a clutch point where partway through it kind of locks for a second, and that's when you're supposed to let go."
Yeah.
So without any kind of like resistance or feedback built into it, there's no way to be able to tell when the clutch point is. And I was like, oh, that just would be like, it'd just be most of the way there, and it would just be that much more depressing that it's not 100% accurate.
It would be the uncanny valley effect.
Yeah, it would just be like, it's almost there. Like, at least with the controller, I've played with controllers so much that I don't think about it much anymore. Especially with the triggers, like, they feel good for driving. With that, it would just be so close, but not quite. Yeah, so that's a bummer, but whatever. I guess the other quick thing I forgot about that I just want to mention offhand is a couple days ago, I had a friend of mine over, and he decided to play Bloodborne for the first time. He is a big Souls fan, just beat Dark Souls 2 like last week. And he came over, and it was just a lot of fun to sit there with me, and the guy who hasn't played the game, but he knows the whole story, and then him, who doesn't even know, like, the big twist halfway through, which we talked about on the podcast before, like the whole Lovecraftian stuff. Yeah. So he didn't know that, so it was just hilarious that he sees all these notes that just say, like, the sky and the cosmos are one, and me and my friend Nick are just laughing in the background. He's like, what's so funny? And it's like, oh, you'll understand when you get, like, halfway through. And just, like, parts of it were really funny with stuff like that. And I also forgot how infuriating it is to watch someone else play a Souls game, especially when you know it. Like, if I watched you play Demon's Souls, I would just be screaming the whole time.
Spoilers!
So if I were to watch you play a Souls game one day,
I can imagine, because I am not good.
Yeah, but with anybody, it's just funny, watching video of people who are not terribly good at it, and you're sitting there and you're like, well, if you just use this type of weapon, if you just go to the right, there's a secret item there that you totally need. Like, it's the most infuriating thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's a Souls game, it's designed that way. But it was quite a good time. He beat a few bosses. I laughed when he died at some of them, and I was like, dude, I beat that like my first try. Come on. Like, whatever.
I remember hearing the Giant Bomb guys talk about what it's like to stream playing Bloodborne or Dark Souls. And they eventually go to a point where they just look at the comments and go, you know what, I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't actually care what you have to say anymore.
Like, every point you put into something, everybody's just going, this is a wrong point. You're supposed to put, 3 points into vitality first so you can get this set of armor that will let you get this weapon.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, that's the whole way the game's built, is, have this item equipped, and then you can talk to this guy in this area, but first you gotta reload the game and put 6 points into VIT or whatever. It's just, those games are great, but they're also just a nightmare of logistics. Like, how would you figure any of this out? I don't know. But that was a great time. Other than that, I did not do much, so I think we should get on to you.
All right. So I'll get into the second topic since it kind of follows from your last one.
Yeah.
I am playing Demon's Souls this week.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, this is the very first time I have ever touched a Souls game.
It's also the first Souls game for those of you who might only know about Dark Souls.
Yeah, it was on sale during Golden Week, so I decided I might as well invest.
I own 2 copies of Demon's Souls. I should have bought another one. Just get a third, just to have it.
So I am not very far. I just beat the Phalanx boss, the first boss in the game.
So what class did you choose?
I chose Royalty.
Right, we did talk about this before.
Yeah.
There is a joke out there in that I did, like, that game's easy mode, and that's just to do with the fact that you have a spell called Souled Arrow that does piercing damage plus a magic point regenerating ring.
Yes.
Really though, like, I'm one of those people who says you can play that game however you want, man. I appreciate the harder runs, but that's because
and guess how little I give a shit.
Yeah,
this is me giving anyone who says anything otherwise 2 fingers right now.
I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, fun fact, Brandon, I played my first game as a Royal. I ended up not using the stuff later on because it's super easy. It's super great early on, and it doesn't really do much later. But it's a good crutch to lean on for new players. But, like, now that I'm playing my second run, I'm doing a Magician, I'm doing a Witch build, which is way harder. Like, I am dying constantly because I'm so used to wearing, like, heavy armor and weapons. And now it's like, I just die in, like, 2 hits.
Yeah. Like, because you're not given any direction at the start. You're just like, nope. Here's your character, here's your class. What class do you want? Oh, that one? Okay, we'll deal with it.
And then you do the character creation, which is the best in the whole industry, really. Like, trying to make someone look like, not even pretty, but just, like, normal in that game is not even possible. I tried for hours, and I can make someone look kind of derpy at best.
I just took the default face after a while, gave him a goofy-looking hairstyle, and colored it brown. It's like, okay, that looks good enough, I guess. Good
enough.
So I'm gonna put a helmet on his face anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, with my witch build I can't, so I had to make her look like slightly decent. So what do you think about the Souls games though? You did mention the lack of direction. That's definitely a big thing that's been around since Demon Souls. How do you feel about that? I'm
coming to grips with it slowly. It's kind of infuriating because you go through, like, I beat the Phalanx boss, so I know I'm in its introductory area still. I'll go explore around it a bit more after I beat the Phalanx boss, and I've spent my souls and all that. So then I go across this bridge, and a dragon one-shots me as I run across the bridge.
Wait, did you not beat the Phalanx boss before crossing the bridge?
No. The bridge after the Phalanx boss. Yeah, I died that one too a couple times.
Oh right, yes. Sorry, the World 1-2 bridge. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, because there is a dragon on the first bridge.
After my 3rd attempt at crossing that bridge, I decided, you know what? Maybe I should do something else.
Yeah, you could do a different world.
Yeah, so I moved on to a different world. It has an orange sky, and it looks kind of like a mine.
Okay, that's 2-1. I wish I could remember the names by heart. Stonefang Tunnel, that's what it is.
Sure.
Yes, that's the material world. That's where you gather a lot of upgrade materials, stones.
I noticed that. I was getting a lot of shards.
Yeah, like one of the many things they don't tell you about that game is that every world has a specific theme to it, as far as like what you get, and the whole World 2 area, it's all about materials. Like that's also where the second blacksmith is, who will upgrade your stuff.
I found him. Actually, completely on accident. I fell off the platform when I opened the shortcut to the elevator, and I accidentally fell off the platform, like right at the bottom, and then I found the blacksmith there.
But you
completely
didn't die?
On accident. No, I wasn't that high off the ground.
Yeah, because I was gonna say that Demon Souls, I believe, has the least fall damage of any in the series. Like Dark Souls 2, no matter where you jump off, you're probably gonna die if you're making a jump. Like it's ridiculous. Demon Souls, you can fall off like a cliff, and it's like, yeah, you took like 10 points of damage, whatever.
Yeah.
So okay, you done World 1-1 and 1-2 or 2-1.
I'm not finished 2-1 yet. I'm still exploring it right now.
Right, you have not done the boss. That's later on. I haven't. Yeah. You are where I am. Then I've done 1-1 and 1-2 on my new character, and I'm on 2-1 right now.
Yeah, so I'm making headway gradually.
Yeah, that's decent progress, man. The general like Souls thing is that if you can make it past the first era, you can make it past the rest of the game. That applies. I'm
still having issues getting the timing down on a lot of the moves. I've never really been good at getting timing precise when it comes to things like that. It takes me a lot of practice.
Yeah, and those games are very deliberate in their animations and their timing.
Yeah, I've noticed. Like,
yeah, when you make a swing, you're committed to that swing for the next few seconds.
I gave the rapier for a short sword pretty early on in the game because the short sword swings were a lot easier to use than the rapier is just jab.
Yeah, well, one thing you may or may not have noticed is that different enemies are susceptible to different kinds of attacks. So the mining guys in Stonefang are actually weak against thrust attacks, like the rapier.
Oh, I just shoot them with magic missile.
Fair enough. But yeah, that applies to bosses and all kinds of enemies as well. So generally, it's good to keep
I saw
multiple
a
types.
notice on Phalanx that he was weak to fire, so I just equipped the equivalent of Molotov cocktails and threw them at the boss.
Yep. Trying to think of what I did. No, I believe. Oh, I did. Since I'm the witch, I have flame toss, which is just throw a fireball, and that worked extremely well. But yeah. So, do you have any general thoughts on the series yet, or is it too early to say?
It's still kind of early to say, but I'm still kind of agonizing over every small decision I make.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
It's like I look at the like, what stat do you want to increase with this level? And I'm like, fuck, what stat do I want to increase?
Yeah, and Demon Souls might be the worst as far as not really telling you what's happening. Because when Dark Souls Onward,
because you see something useful with any of these skills.
Yeah, plus with Dark Souls Onward, it actually shows you your full stat sheet as opposed to like the individual things, so you can actually kind of see overall what the picture is coming into. With Demon Souls, you just kind of have to have a mental image of what your stats are looking like as you increase stuff.
I think I'm probably going to invest a little more in magic this playthrough.
Yeah. What I will say though is whatever you do, commit. Like, don't just... The worst thing that I've done...
Don't jack of all trades it?
Yes. I have done that in Demon Souls and it screwed me over, and I've done that in Dark Souls and it really screwed me over. Dark Souls 2, you can really get away with it, but with Demon Souls especially, it's like, if you want to do magic, like the royal I did that I beat the game with was magic and strength. So I wore heavy armor, and I had a giant axe, and I cast pretty decent magic. If you want to go just a straight magic build, that's totally possible. You can get the right clothes for it, and the right resistances, and the right weapons. Just don't try to do everything. And of course, part of the game is like the idea of community, so do not feel bad for looking something up about like a particular build, because that is,
I was
the game's
wondering if this should be a wiki game or not. If I should try doing it without wiki or not, but I probably end up giving up at some point and just looking things up on the Souls wiki or whatever they fucking call it.
There's 2 of them for every Souls game. There is the Wikia and the Fextra Life. They're both fine. But yes, like I said, those games, Miyazaki, I was going to say himself, but Miyazaki, whether he said it specifically or not, has designed those games to breed community in the sense that he wants people to create builds and share ideas about where to find secret stuff. So if you ever get to a point where you're just lost on like what world do I go to next, just look up that and there is a general idea of like, you should probably go here next if you're this level, and you might want to go grab this item if you're this build. Because you will also realize that you want to upgrade specific weapons, so generally you'll find one weapon you like and you'll take that to the end of the game.
Yeah, I noticed. Is there a way to sell weapons in this game?
No, I don't believe so.
Because my stash is full of junk that I am never going to use.
No, you just have to give that to Thomas.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit that Thomas has that I know I'm never going to pull out.
Because this is the only game in the series that has item burden. You can actually just have too much stuff on you.
No other game has encumbrance in these Souls games?
Dark Souls 1 and 2 have equip load, which affects your roll speed, but they do not have item burden. And then Bloodborne has none of that whatsoever. You can hold as much stuff you want, you can wear whatever you want.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Demon Souls, the item burden seemed like kind of a bummer, but at least the way that the game is designed with the hub area and all that, it's really not a problem.
One thing I will say about Demon Souls is that since this is my first Souls game, this is probably going to sound like something that other Souls games players are used to, but it's interesting how very little time there is between death and you restarting the game. Like you just die and then you're right back where you started from the beginning level, ready to start over again. And that's, considering how often you will die in that game, that is a very important thing.
Yeah, Bloodborne was definitely a problem with that because the load times when you died were like 45 seconds.
Like they're not wasting my time with any stupid death animations or anything like that. They're just saying, okay, yeah, you died, start over.
Yeah, and there is penalty for death, and the game is hard, but like, I'd be curious. This again, you might be way too early to really have any kind of opinion on this. But the general opinion that people form when they become fans of this series, like myself, is that the games are not hard in the traditional sense when you think of hard. Because when I think of hard games, I think of difficulty sliders that say you have 60% health and the enemies have 120%.
It's difficult in the sense that it's not something that is easy to learn, but once you learn it, it's more of a process of figuring out just what the hell you're supposed to do. And once you know how to do it, it kind of just falls into place.
Yeah. I like the word that I have used thrown around that I prefer is that the game is challenging. in the sense that it wants you to learn all these things. It doesn't try to obfuscate ways to learn things. It just obfuscates,
It
like
it
items
is
and
like
such.
a ballet. You had to have your steps and your performance just right.
Yeah. But, like the game, it wants you to be good at it, and it doesn't, well, it does punish you in some senses. I'm trying to think of the way to
It
describe
wants
this.
you
It's
to
just,
learn the dance
yeah.
and
It
learn
like,
it well.
eventually you will learn those areas front to back if you were to start doing multiple playthroughs. Like with Dark Souls 2, up until Scarlet the First Sin, where they remixed some stuff, on like my 4th DS2 run, I could just do that whole game front to back without dying for like the first 3/4 of the game. Because I just knew all the patterns for every boss and everything. It was like, oh yeah, they do this attack and they do this attack.
Of course, that there have been a couple times, like even the first level, where I would counter one enemy. There was one in particular. He had a spear, and he was fully clad in heavy armor. Remember, I was like, okay, it's just another bad guy. I can take him. And then he rushed me, one shot me, and you died. I'm like, what bullshit?
Was that one of the knights with
Yes.
the blue eyes?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, those guys, though, I always felt like those guys, again, they don't really have something like that in Dark Souls. Well, they do. They have knights, but they're not that hardcore. But it felt like those were designed with the sense of, like, learn to block or dodge. Like, you could say that's way too punishing for that kind of thing to just one-shot you.
Eventually, I just learned to just roll, do a slash, and then roll again. And just keep waiting for my turn.
And that's also part of your build. Like, if you were a knight, you could probably just equip a shield and then be good. But, as your character...
right now I have a buckler. So...
Right now you are a very squishy character. Like, you will die pretty easily. The thing with the Royal is that one of the ways you can build it is totally just the glass cannon mage style thing, where it's like you can do like 300 damage, but you'll die in one hit from everything.
Yeah.
I would definitely look up some builds for sure before you get too much further, because knowing you, I feel like if you screwed yourself over halfway...
I've probably already screwed myself over in some way.
Yeah,
knowing me.
You can always farm for stuff. There is a specific farming area at the end of the 4th world that I used quite a bit for the end of the game. But I would just say do it early, because I feel like, and this is not a detriment at all, I'm sure a lot of people like this, that I feel like if you got halfway through and realized you screwed up your build, I don't think you'd be the kind of person who would just start over willingly.
I wouldn't. No, yeah. I won't.
So I would rather you look up a build and understand what you're going into before you get too far.
Yeah, I might just do that.
Yeah, I have to do that for certain types. Like in Dark Souls 2, I had to go figure out what a dex build was, because I've never done that before. And it's totally different stuff from what I use.
Yeah, I was thinking just to almost go pure magic with with a little bit of vitality.
Yeah, as a Royal, you're basically built for magic with a bit of strength if you want. Magician is definitely better for pure magic, but it's just stats at the beginning. It's stats and clothing. And the Magician wears the same early clothing, but they do not have the regeneration ring for MP, which probably gives the Royal a bonus in that sense. So if you want to start stacking magic...
The MP regeneration has definitely been very helpful.
Yeah, it's very good. Definitely for magic, though, there's a specific guy you're going to need to find in 3.1, and that's one of the things that I say you should look up a wiki, because
I was
you do not want to miss that guy.
I was wondering how I get more spells.
Yeah, you have to find people in Demon Souls. More people will mean more weapon options and more spells.
Yeah.
It's a weird game.
So I think that's probably enough of Souls for now.
Sure, I'm really genuinely excited that you're playing it, because I think it's a game that like everybody should at least try.
Yeah, I don't promise to finish it, but I promise to give it the best effort.
I didn't finish it for years. I only finished it like a couple months ago actually, and I got it back when I was in high school. So I understand.
Before we get to my other game, I have a little story to tell.
Sure.
So, for those of you who don't know, my friend Ryu Dakun and I like to play co-op games a lot together. So, we were hoping to play Rayman Legends on the PS4 together.
That's a good game.
So, we both got it. We both started the game up. And then we realized that the co-op in that game is offline only.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So we spent about 10 minutes just cursing Ubisoft for the stupid mistake of not having online co-op in essentially a co-op game. Because that makes total sense, Ubisoft. And then I looked it up, and it turns out there is a way you can sidestep that problem because of the share play feature on the PS4. You can technically start off a second player on the offline on the console, on the host console.
I did not
and
think of
then
that.
have the second player be played by the share player.
I wonder what kind of delay is in that thing, though.
We tried it, but it turns out neither Ryu's internet nor my own were good enough to use SharePlay.
I believe it.
So was it a good idea in theory, but it shouldn't have been a problem in the first place.
Yeah, I'm sure you've also noticed this recent resurgence in local co-op games. But when I was listening to another podcast, somebody brought up a good point, which is the idea of like, well, these games look awesome, and I understand the idea of making it local co-op to say, hey, gather your friends. But in some cases, you don't.
It is already
difficult
enough for me to get 4 online friends to get together and do this goddamn podcast every week. It is an entirely separate issue to find 4 friends that can get to my house to play a game with me. Yeah, that is so much more challenging.
And that's kind of the thing, is that all these local co-op games like Samurai Gun and Towerfall and all that build this idea of like, we want the local couch experience. And it's like, that's really neat in theory.
Why not fucking both?
Yeah.
Why are those mutually exclusive options?
So my point being, though, is that I feel like it seems to not acknowledge the idea of the person who doesn't have friends who live near them. Like, myself, where all my friends used to come over to my house once a week back in high school, but then we all moved away because we got old and got jobs. Yeah. So now most of my friends live in like Atlanta, and some of them live in Kennesaw, and just places that are like 45 minutes, an hour away. So if I want to play games with them, we play them online. And it is such a bummer. I'm sure part of the local co-op games resurgence thing, like when they say it's couch co-op, I'm sure part of that is also just coding and not building online and peer-to-peer servers and all that kind of thing.
But it's Ubisoft we're talking about, though. Right. How could they should
with them?
Have
I
no
don't
excuse.
Get it. With them, that's really bizarre because they've done online co-op before. It's not a new concept to them.
Yeah. So we eventually gave up and played Soul Calibur instead.
That's slight disappointment, but
All's well that ends well. I was still planning to play Rayman Legends, but I guess I'm doing it by myself now.
Yeah, I mean, I played the whole game by myself,
Bitterly.
and it's fantastic. It's a great game.
Yeah, but I wanted to play it with my friends.
Yeah. Well, move somewhere it's not Delaware, apparently. That's what Ubisoft would probably say.
Yeah, I guess fuck me for living with my parents.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a bummer, and it does make me appreciate that I do have a friend of mine from Atlanta who's willing to drive 45 minutes to come play games with me every once in a while, because there's some games that I can only play local co-op.
So now that I've told you that story, I'm going to get to the other part. The reason why I'm playing Demon's Souls now is because I have finished Resonance of Fate.
You go through games real fast, man. And I think it's just because you have like laser focus when it comes to games.
I do, plus I am unemployed at the moment, which helps.
So, like, have you really just been like waking up and then playing that game with the only breaks being like food or just like videos?
No, I am doing college projects and shit too.
Okay, so it's not like you've been playing this game like, dawn to dusk or whatever. Like, you actually do other stuff. You're just the thing is you're only playing one game, so over the course of a week that accumulates.
I play games one game at a time. I don't play like 3 games at once because that doesn't work for me. That's not my style.
I wish I could play one a game at a time, but I'm just not good at it. I just get bored. So
for me, it's something that I had to finish one before I move on to the other, because otherwise I'm just going to forget shit.
Yep, happened to me. Anyway, so how's the end of Resonance of Fate? Is it worth me to keep playing after all these years?
I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed it from start to finish. It gets kind of hard, but I think it's a challenge that people like you would probably enjoy, because I enjoyed it, and I'm not much of a challenge guy.
Okay, but
it's more of a strategic challenge than anything else.
But, so, like, does all the writing and side quests and all that, does that still hold up later on?
The story becomes complete nonsense to me later on.
Like the main story?
Yeah, the main story. Yeah. Like, towards the end, I've sat there wondering, well, I understand why my 3 playable characters did what they did. But when I look at the villains and the side characters and all that, and I ask myself, why were they doing what they did? I have no idea. I don't have the faintest clue. I get why Vacheron, Leanne, and Zephyr do their thing, but why the other characters do their things, I just flat out don't know. It escapes me.
So I would like to ask you, because I have played other Trias games, but I've never finished one. Is that a common problem with them as far as story, or is this
Not
new to
usually.
Resonance?
Not usually. Sometimes they have that problem, but usually everything makes some semblance of sense in the end. Like in this game, I just don't understand what happened. Like,
that's kind of.
I can't explain that without going into a bit more spoilers. But I do want to talk about some of the other main missions in the game that I found pretty funny, or at least pretty cool. So in one of the later missions, the mission takes place on Christmas Day.
Okay.
So your 3 characters are hired to play Santa Claus and give gifts to children.
With guns?
So normally this is the part where you would be dungeon crawling, fighting against bad guys, but instead they spin those mechanics on their head. All your characters have one weapon, a thrown weapon called Christmas Presents.
Actually, it does involve the combat.
And you go up against level 1 children.
Oh man, can you charge up multiple levels of presents?
Yes.
So you can get like level 7 present charge.
And it takes the thrown weapon it takes the thrown weapon skill. So like if you have someone who's level up in grenades, they'll throw presents faster.
Oh good. Those kids, man, they're really impatient. You really gotta throw them at them fast.
And I just thought it was really cute because in like they turn everything around. Like when you know how they do those combat taunts when they're doing their heroic moves?
Yeah.
Instead they'll keep saying Merry Christmas.
That's great. So can you also do like the hero run thing? Like can you do like sick backflips and throw presents at kids?
You can do that. That's totally a thing you can do. In fact, it's one of the fastest ways to get through that section.
Sick present backflips.
And you can just have Zephyr go, Merry Christmas, while flipping in the air and throwing a present at a child.
That's just right at their face. That's how they like it.
And instead of saying threat eliminated at the end of the fight, it says Merry Christmas.
Oh, I love you, Tri-Ace. Never change.
And I was just laughing at something like, this is the cutest thing I've seen in this entire game, and I love it.
That's so great.
And because Leanne's the one in the Santa outfit, the children automatically try rushing her.
What do the other guys wear? They're wearing elf costumes?
Reindeer costumes.
Even better! Can you wear those afterwards, or is that like exclusive to that mission?
I think it's exclusive to that mission.
You can actually wear them, but it costs like 50
million
points.
But it's also funny because at the end, Zephyr and Leanne have a heart-to-heart, while Zephyr's still in the reindeer suit.
You are making me want to play this game right now.
And even better, it's one with the mask, so you have the mouth flapping while he's talking in the reindeer suit.
If you ever forget why you love Tri-Ace games, just things like that.
And I was just smiling the entire mission because I was having the time of my life.
That sounds great.
My mom walked into me throwing Christmas presents at children.
Dude, video games are so violent these days.
It was great. That was one of the more interesting missions in the game, just because of how it took basic combat mechanics and made them into something silly and fun.
Yeah, I mean, they totally could have just gone the route of just like running around the town area and being like, here's a gift. Like, yeah, sure. But the fact that they entwine that with the combat is hilarious.
It's a typical dungeon crawl in the game, but with a brand new twist, and your characters don't take damage because that makes no sense.
I thought you were going to say the characters take damage in the sense that the kids are just like beating the shit out of them for the gifts.
But like if Leanne is surrounded by too many people, she'll get dazed.
Oh wow!
She'll get nervous and stop moving.
You have to give these presents to the kids to save Leanne.
Basically, yes, so that she can start moving again.
This is great.
It's the best, and I just loved it. And the other mission I want to talk about is it's a really funny mission where a cardinal hires Zephyr and Leanne to pose in a mock wedding so that he and his girlfriend can marry in a remote location.
And also, before you move on,
go ahead.
Say, when you say, for the viewers and for me, when you say cardinal, you mean in the Catholic sense? Like a church member?
Yeah, as in a church member, but I'm not sure if it's the Catholic Church or not, although they do say God, so probably.
Yeah, I just mean when you say cardinal, though, that's what you meant. Like, in case there was a specific game term for cardinal, but Yulu just being a church role.
because the world of Resonance of Fate is it's basically like a theocracy where the church has all the power.
Yeah. So I just wanted to confirm that for viewers before we moved on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the cardinal's trying to marry his girlfriend.
Okay.
But he's afraid that his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend's going to kidnap the girlfriend. So he has Zephyr and Leanne pose in a mock wedding while he goes to a remote location that no one else knows about and marries her off-site.
That's pretty detailed.
So you have Zephyr and Leanne posing in this mock wedding. Meanwhile, Vacheron gets a call hiring him to steal the girlfriend in a wedding that's about to happen.
Oh, really? How coincidental.
So you play as Vacheron solo in that mission, and then at the end of the dungeon, you find Zephyr and Leanne at the wedding.
Oh, wow.
And Vacheron goes, no, Daddy does not approve!
He thinks they're getting married. Also, Daddy?
Yes!
First your call, that's really weird implication for him and Leanne if he's talking about your rack. Oh.
And then he eventually decides to give up his job because he realizes those guys are getting paid more.
Ah, good.
He's like, wait a minute, are we on two sides of the same job?
Can't have that. That's
so how much are paying you guys? And then they whisper a number that we don't hear off screen.
Church money.
And then he goes, yeah, I am no longer doing my job anymore.
You guys can get married. Good job.
So I thought that was a fun mission just because it's a little like, you know, two sides of the same story kind of thing.
Totally.
I just like the kind of humor that game has.
Yeah,
it's not afraid to not take itself seriously all the time.
And I think it's especially good not only because it's good humor, but it's good translated humor.
Yeah.
Which I have definitely learned through playing Monster Hunter these past few weeks. I mentioned to a friend of mine, is I know the people who translated that game, and it's funny listening to people talk about that kind of thing, and the friend of mine who's an editor for an anime group, and the idea of like, dude, Japanese humor, some of it is just impossible, and you just have to completely change the idea behind it.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good on them, whoever did the
localization is not easy.
Yeah, it sounds like whoever did it did a pretty
good job.
Also,
localization is not translation.
Right. There is. I have actually had someone explain the difference to me. There is a difference. But,
yeah.
Yes.
But as far as the main story goes, it's kind of weird how it seems like only Leanne's character arc really gets resolved out of the three heroes. Like, Leanne's problems and the things surrounding her get resolved, but when it comes to Zephyr and Vacheron, they kind of just get forgotten in the main story, or get swept up in Leanne's story.
And they do have problems of their own, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They have their own character arcs that don't ever really get resolved. And knowing that these chances of this game getting a sequel are approximately 0%,
like
that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Because these are really good characters otherwise.
I would love to see a PS4 sequel with like updated graphics.
And combined with the fact that the game kind of leaves a lot of detail unexplained in both the world and in a lot of the characters, it's just kind of disappointing just to see that this seems like it deserves a sequel and probably should get a sequel, even though it's probably never going to get one. Like, if we're being realistic.
Yeah, that is kind of a shame, but I'd be curious to hear the story behind that game. Like, because that just seems slightly different from Trice's normal stuff as far as their stories and things. Like, I wonder if it had some kind of weird development cycle. Trice is
pretty much known for doing things that aren't the norm.
Yeah. This is like, in this case, the gamble, like, half paid off for him.
Yeah. Because, again, these are really cool mechanics, but I don't envy someone who is trying to learn this and doesn't go to the arena to do the tutorial. Because you will never learn this mechanics on your own. You need to have some help.
Yeah. It's too out there. There's no system quite like it.
Yeah. And that's the good and bad of Trice, that their systems tend to be unlike other systems for both the good parts of that and the bad.
Right. So before you do move on, real quick, I just have two questions about the story that I'm curious about as I move on.
No problem.
So one is, did they ever explain the beginning where Leanne is falling off the whole of the city, and Zephyr and all that? They were saying like why she jumped off,
Yes.
or fell, or something.
Yes, ish.
Okay. So I'm guessing they bring up the moment, but they might not resolve it.
Not totally, but enough.
Okay. And the other question I had, just because I'm always curious about this in anime, is does the love thing between Zephyr and Leanne ever come to anything, or is it just the heartfelt moment, but they never like...
They have a lot of heartfelt moments, but they never tie the knot.
Right. They never like say anything that is never any real closure.
It is definitely unresolved sexual tension.
Yeah, there's like no real closure about like, hey, let's just start going out or something. That's typical of anime, unfortunately. But it is very clear the
two of them care about each other.
Okay. That's very anime, so I'm used to it.
You know how Zephyr is all wangsty all the time, right?
Yeah.
There is one part of the game where Zephyr's like, I just wish I was dead, and then Leanne just takes a frying pan and beats him in the back of the head for being stupid.
Okay then, well, glad to see things are working out. Does that trait ever change, or is that one of the things that you say kind of goes unresolved as far as their arcs? Like, does he ever stop being
he is the wankster for the entire game.
That's real sad.
Yeah, it really is, because otherwise that could have been an interesting character arc if they don't really ever explain why he's angsty, though.
I thought in like one of the first cutscenes of the game, they say like his parents were dead or something. It's when he's having the champagne with Leanne in like the second cutscene of the whole game.
Do you mind if I just say it, or do you want me?
Put a thing for the viewers. I don't care. Just if you want to check the annotations, just skip this possible spoiler.
So Zephyr is wangsty because for some reason that they never really make clear, he murdered the shit out of a school and all the teachers and children in it.
Okay.
They never really explain why he did it. He just did it.
That's really something.
And he feels really bad about it.
Huh.
To the point where he wishes he was dead.
I believe it. Yeah, that's certainly something. I'm curious to play more of that game.
Did you play the opening cut? Did you watch the opening cutscene before the game starts?
Isn't that the one where they're both falling and they talk to each other?
No. Like before that, like when Vacheron's entering the church in that introduction.
I remember it vaguely.
That is Zephyr that he's fighting.
Oh, wasn't he like wearing a hood or something?
Yeah,
as you can tell.
Yeah, Vacheron was hired to kill Zephyr.
Right, because he does mention that vaguely in the cutscene. He talks like picking the kid up, and then he's like, and then Leanne happened to tag along. Okay, so that's kind of a disappointment when it comes to RPGs. Is just unresolved, like not even unresolved, but just lack of closure is what I miss the most in art games.
Yeah, and they never really he never really gets over his wangst either, which kind of annoys me a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm certainly still curious to play more of it.
It's definitely worth playing through. Definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot of games out there. I might not get to it till the summer, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I definitely want to.
You still have to beat Drakengard, dude.
Yeah, I got Drakengard. I still got Persona 3. That's like 6 years late. Trying to finish that.
I am surprised you never finished Persona 3 ever.
It blows my mind.
Considering how much you love that game, allegedly.
It's only allegedly until I finish it.
Yeah.
Then my whole thing, I just go, no, fuck Persona 3. It's the worst game ever. I mean, I already know the ending, so I like it. That even still, I would still love it. So I would not be surprised if I got to the end and then there was some small thing. If you were a
Persona 3 fan for 6 years and didn't know the ending, I would be shocked.
I mean, I didn't. Well, I was gonna say I didn't until I met you, but I totally did because I was reading the manga at one point, and then at some point it accidentally skips until the very end. Like whoever was scanning it forgot like 30 chapters, and it just shows the final boss, and it's like, oh, it's that guy. It's like, this is all too weird, and I just had to close it. But I already read the villain's speech and all that at the very end of the game from the manga.
Yeah.
So I'm aware of what's going on, basically. Yes. A lot of games.
So that was my week.
All right. Well, this is normally where we go on for another hour and a half, but
since it's just the two of us, we can do it if we try.
Just I mean, really, between us, we could go for hours just talking about like
Yeah.
we could literally pick a game out of a hat
That
we both played
Residence
and
of
go for
Fate
hours.
conversation could have continued far, far longer, as would the Demon Souls conversation if we allowed it to.
We should really just have a series sometime. We'll just pick a game out of a hat and just say, let's talk about this for half an hour.
We keep planning to do like spoiler casts of like Remember Me and other sorts of games. We never actually get around to it.
When you want to do it, man? Let's get it up. Let's get it going. Finish Demon Souls. We'll talk about that. And I'll finish Residence of Fate. And we'll just do like 5 of them at once.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I can't wait to get to the part where you throw Christmas presents at children.
Yeah, that's going to be the turning point. Alright, well, I think that'll do it for this week.
That'll do it for this week. Sam, did you anything you wanted to plug? Like any articles or anything like that?
As before, I am writing stuff, and I will now say that I am beginning to edit the next season of Interactive Friction, which I think we could say that is surely happening. Yeah. We have not uploaded the teaser or anything, but I don't think I would surprise anyone by saying we are continuing to do this.
Because we like it. We like this. This is fun.
Yeah, for a while I debated like not telling anybody we're doing that, and it's like, really, if I told anybody who's watched our series that we're doing another, they'd be like, of course you are. Like, when weren't you working on another season? It's like, yeah, of course. Yeah. So I am working on that. That teaser will be uploaded probably, I don't know, like a week or two maybe. But we're excited. It's
going to be fun.
The game we're doing is a bit touch and go as far as conversations, but when we're on, we're really on in some of those episodes.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some really good talks about this one. So
there might be some episodes in that season that are like 15 minutes long because I just cut like half of the stuff out, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it though, and I am trying to work on other stuff. It's a lot of like trying to figure out school and stuff before I get back to the writing thing. It's a whole nightmare.
Which is ironic because I'm actually starting to get out of school.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of my job back in school. You're trying to get into school.
I'll be graduating soon.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of my job and back into school.
I have a bachelor's of science in computer science.
Yeah, man. Make some video games.
Yeah.
So, you got anything you want to plug? I haven't edited an article of yours yet.
I will start a Residence of Fate article at some point. It'll probably be a while because I'm still trying to figure out what I want to write about that game.
I would say if you have nothing to write about, don't push yourself to, but you have an idea.
Yeah.
Really.
Aside from that, just like Interactive Fiction's coming soon, and I'll still be doing the annotations for these podcasts, so there'll be still content coming up on the blog pretty regularly, so don't worry about that.
Right. And like I say all the time, we always have plans for other ideas for Texture Pop. I do have some files laying around that I need to work with to see if we can make videos out of it. We always have other audio ideas and such, but
And if you have any questions, comments, or something you want to read on the air, feel free to message us at thetexturepop@gmail.com.
Yeah, if you want to send us an email just telling us about your experience with the story, the way that we talk about this on the show, we're willing to read some long-form stuff if we don't have that many to read.
Definitely.
Yeah, if you just want to give us a small story, sure. Other than that, hopefully the guys will be back next week, but I'm glad to... It's a good week, Brandon.
Yeah, this is a good podcast.
Yeah, it's very quiet. Very short and very quiet.
Yeah, well, you know us. We can totally ramble if we have to. Or if we don't have to, we can still ramble.
Even if we don't want to, we still ramble.
Yeah.
We have to catch ourselves quite a bit.
We're going to make this podcast less than 2 hours. We never do. We never do. We keep saying that we will, but we never do.
And the one time it's like under an hour and a half, we're like, oh, look how short it is. I don't know. Some people tend to like it. That I have certainly read comments where people are like, I like that it's like 2.5 hours, and it's like, yeah, but that's really tough to do when it's not your job.
As someone who does the annotations, I can definitely like understand how someone could be frustrated with a 2-hour-long podcast.
Yeah. Some people really dig it. I like long podcasts. Like, there's like one long podcast I like, and every other podcast I listen to weekly, I like them to be super short.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So, go figure. Anyway, we'll catch you guys next week, so...
It's the Texture Pop, signing off.
Yeah, bye everybody.
Bye guys.
I'm recording, so like I said, I can cut it off whenever. We're ready.